Lieutenant Commander Alex Grant had survived firefights, covert operations, and missions that officially never happened. Yet sitting beneath the harsh fluorescent lights of a government laboratory made him more uncomfortable than any battlefield ever had. The government liaison had called it an evaluation. Alex thought interrogation would have been more accurate. He sat alone in a sterile examination room at the Naval Medical Research Center. He wore the standard gray clothing issued to every candidate while monitors tracked his pulse, temperature, oxygen levels, and other vital signs. A camera watched silently from the ceiling. Every breath was being recorded. Dr. Rains, the scientist leading the assessment, studied a tablet before finally looking up. Lieutenant Commander Grant, thank you for volunteering. You understand that this is an experimental defense program? Yes, Project Ascendant is a joint initiative involving the Department of Defense and a private biotechnology company. Its purpose is to investigate whether human biological performance can be dramatically improved through genetic engineering. Alex had heard rumors about projects like this before. Enhanced soldiers. Artificially improved physiology. Science that sounded more like comic books than reality. Rains continued with the psychological assessment. Your record is exceptional. Navy Cross. Bronze Star. Multiple commendations. No disciplinary issues. Would you describe yourself as a leader or a follower? Depends on the situation. She made a note. Then came the stranger questions. How do you feel about women serving in combat roles? Alex raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. It's part of the psychological assessment. Anyone capable of doing the job should be allowed to do it. Male, female, doesn't matter. Rains studied him carefully. And gender dynamics within your unit only become a problem when someone refuses to respect a capable leader. The questions continued for nearly an hour. Some concerned violence, others empathy, emotional resilience, and adaptability. By the end, Alex had the distinct feeling that they weren't simply determining whether he was fit to become a better soldier. They were determining what kind of person he would become afterward. He didn't yet know how important those questions would be. Project Ascendant wasn't searching for the strongest candidate. They were searching for someone whose mind could survive whatever happened to their body. They woke Alex before dawn. He had endured training that would have broken most people, but this facility felt different. There was no shouting, no instructors pushing him forward. Only observation. He followed two technicians through a secured corridor lined with reinforced glass. Behind it were laboratories filled with glowing equipment, sealed tanks, computer arrays, and machines he couldn't identify. Eventually they reached the physical testing chamber. A voice came over the intercom. Lieutenant Commander Grant. We'll begin with baseline measurements. Running, climbing, shooting, endurance. Everything you've done before. Alex rolled his shoulders. Just numbers. You may be surprised by what numbers can tell us, Rains replied from behind him. The testing began. Sprint after sprint. Obstacle courses. Rope climbs. Wall scaling. Strength measurements. Reaction tests. Every heartbeat was recorded. Every movement was analyzed. Then the scientists increased the difficulty. Heavy loads were added. Bright lights flashed unexpectedly. Artificial gunfire erupted from hidden speakers. Auditory distractions and neurological stimuli were introduced while Alex was already exhausted. He pushed through everything. 2 hours later, Rains finally raised a hand. Enough. Alex dropped onto a bench, breathing heavily. Why me? Rains remained silent for a moment. Because you're an ideal candidate physically, genetically, and psychologically. And because I don't have a family waiting for me. She didn't immediately answer. Finally, she admitted, that is one consideration. Alex gave her a hard look. But it isn't the only reason. Rains folded her arms. If this succeeds, what we learn could eventually save thousands of lives. Perhaps millions. You could become the first step toward preventing future soldiers and civilians from dying simply because the human body has limits. Alex considered that. So you're saying I take the risk now so someone else doesn't have to later? Exactly. He stood. Then let's find out how far those limits really go. Above them, the lights shifted to a colder white. The next stage was ready. Alex was given 48 hours before the procedure. He spent them quietly. He told his old teammates that he was heading into another extended training assignment. It wasn't unusual enough to raise questions. He met several of them near Coronado. They joked about old missions, exchanged stories, and tried to enjoy an ordinary evening. Alex listened more than he spoke. He memoized every laugh, every familiar voice, every ordinary moment. Later, he ran alone along the beach. The Pacific wind moved through his sweatshirt as waves broke in the distance. The world looked completely normal. But in 2 days, he might not be the same person. The next morning, he entered the secured medical wing beneath the research facility. Rains met him there. "Once we begin, you'll be unconscious for at least 24 hours. And if something goes wrong, we'll intervene." Alex nodded. Good enough. A nurse prepared him for the procedure while technicians activated the surrounding equipment. Rains explained the process one final time. The serum contains microscopic carriers designed to deliver the genetic modifications directly into your cells. Your body will essentially rebuild itself according to the program. Sounds simple. You've survived worse. Alex gave her a faint smile. Usually while wearing pants. For the first time, Rains laughed. The anesthesiologist began the procedure. Alex counted backward. 10, 9, 8. His thoughts drifted toward the beach. 7. The sound of the ocean. 6. The voices of his friends. 5. Then everything disappeared. Darkness slowly gave way to awareness. Alex heard voices before he could open his eyes. They sounded impossibly clear. Transformation is stable. Metabolic activity normalized 12 hours ago. Reduce the anesthesia. Let the patient wake naturally. Alex frowned. Something about the conversation felt wrong. Then he opened his eyes. The recovery room appeared sharper than he remembered. He could distinguish tiny details across the room. He could hear footsteps outside the door, machinery several rooms away, and the steady rhythm of the ventilation system. His senses had changed. He tried to move. His wrists wouldn't cooperate. Neither would his ankles. Restraints. His pulse immediately accelerated. The monitor beside him responded with a rapid series of beeps. "Stay calm," he whispered. Then he froze. The voice wasn't his. It was higher and distinctly different. Alex stared at the ceiling. He tried again. "Excuse me. I need assistance." The same unfamiliar voice answered him. His thoughts raced. Something had happened during the procedure. Something far beyond what the scientists had described. Movement appeared behind the observation glass. Someone was approaching. For the first time in his career, Alex Grant wasn't afraid of what might kill him. He was afraid of what he had awakened as. The door opened. 2 technicians entered, followed by Dr. Rains. "Lieutenant Commander Grant," she said. "You're awake." Alex stared at her. "The procedure worked." "Yes. Your vital signs are excellent. Your neural activity is stable. Your reflexes, senses, endurance, and strength have all increased." Alex listened carefully. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him. "My voice." Rains hesitated. Alex noticed immediately. What happened? There was an unexpected effect. What kind? She took a breath. In some of the animal trials, the genetic restructuring produced a complete biological reset. Instead of merely enhancing the existing body, the treatment reconstructed it according to another biological template. Alex stared at her. "You're telling me the treatment changed my entire physical form?" "Yes." The room became silent. Alex looked down at his hands. They were different. His body had changed dramatically, but his mind remained completely intact. He flexed his fingers. "Does the strength enhancement still work?" Rains nodded cautiously. "Try it." Alex pulled against the restraints. The metal gave way almost instantly. The technicians stepped backward in surprise. Alex stared at the broken restraints. "Okay." He looked at Rains. "That part definitely works." Despite everything, a faint grin appeared. Rains released the remaining restraints. Alex slowly sat upright. The unfamiliar balance of his body was disorienting. His proportions, voice, and physical appearance had all changed. He closed his eyes. One breath. Then another. He had survived worse situations. Whatever had happened, he would adapt. Once the medical equipment had been removed, Rains ordered a full-length mirror brought into the room. "I think you should see the results when you're ready," she said. Alex nodded. The scientists left him alone. For several minutes, he simply stared at the covered mirror. Finally, he stood. His center of balance was different. His shoulders were narrower, his build had changed, and his entire appearance reflected the biological transformation. He reached for the cloth. Then pulled it away. The reflection staring back at him was unfamiliar. Yet the eyes were unmistakably his. So were the scars. So were the tattoos. His identity hadn't disappeared. It had simply been placed inside a body he had never expected to have. Alex studied his reflection for a long time. This is going to take some getting used to. He almost laughed. The situation was absurd. But beneath the shock was something unexpected. He was still here. His memories remained. His instincts remained. His determination remained. The experiment had changed his body. It hadn't erased Alex Grant. He reached for the clothes waiting beside the bed and began preparing himself for whatever came next. Getting dressed felt strangely comforting. The clothing was basic and unfamiliar, but performing an ordinary routine helped restore some sense of normality. Alex pressed the call button. Rains entered a moment later. "You're looking steadier." "I feel different." "That is expected." Alex glanced down at himself. "I've got one complaint." Rains raised an eyebrow. "I need better equipment." She almost smiled. "We'll arrange proper clothing and footwear." "Excellent. My tactical reputation survives another day." Rains explained that Alex would remain under observation for several days while the researchers monitored his coordination, balance, strength, reflexes, and general adaptation. Alex listened quietly. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him most. "You know, I should probably be falling apart right now." Rains studied him. "Why?" "Because I woke up completely changed." She nodded. "And yet you're unusually calm." "Exactly." Rains paused. "Do you remember the psychological evaluation?" "The strange questions." "The questions about gender, empathy, adaptability, and emotional flexibility." Alex nodded. "They weren't random." Rains explained that the researchers had been evaluating his psychological resilience. They needed to know whether he could maintain his identity and decision-making ability if the procedure produced an extreme physical transformation. Alex looked at her. "So you knew this might happen?" "We knew it was possible." "And you still let me go through with it?" "We believed you were one of the few people capable of adapting." Alex sat silently for several seconds. Then he looked toward the mirror. His reflection looked unfamiliar. But the eyes looking back at him were still his. "Then I guess," he said quietly, "we'd better figure out what comes next." Dr. Rains proved unexpectedly good at making a classified military facility feel almost ordinary. After Alex received his new footwear, she led him through the compound, pointing out the cafeteria, recreation areas, medical facilities, and restricted sections. "You're free to use most of the recreational areas," she explained. "Tomorrow, however, we start structured testing." "Understood." His new quarters surprised him. Instead of a hospital room, he found a compact apartment with a bed, desk, couch, kitchenette, computer terminal, and secure communications equipment. Rains handed him a key card. "Consider this your temporary home." Alex looked around. "Government housing. I've dreamed of this moment." She laughed before leaving. For the first time since waking, Alex was alone. He showered, allowing the water to wash away the sterile smell of the laboratory. His heightened senses made everything feel unusually vivid, but the warmth helped quiet his thoughts. When he emerged, a package waited outside. Inside were new clothes, running shoes, and other necessities. Efficient, he thought. Apparently, the government had planned for every possibility. Restlessness arrived before midnight. Alex had never been good at sitting still, and the transformation had left him with more energy than he knew how to handle. He found exercise clothing and headed toward the fitness wing. The gym was empty. Perfect. He approached the bench press and loaded what had once been a challenging weight for him. He pushed. The bar rose effortlessly. Alex stared at it. That can't be right. He added more weight. Again, the bar moved with almost no resistance. He kept increasing the load until the numbers became absurd. The strength wasn't merely an enhancement. His entire physical capability had been rewritten. Curious, Alex moved to the pool. The moment he entered the water, another discovery followed. His swimming efficiency was extraordinary. His breathing remained controlled for an astonishing amount of time, and every movement through the water felt precise. He completed lap after lap without experiencing the exhaustion he had known his entire career. Floating on his back afterward, Alex stared at the ceiling. This part, he admitted with a quiet laugh, is actually pretty incredible. For the first time, the transformation felt less like something that had happened to him and more like something he could investigate. The pool door opened. A woman entered, carrying a towel and wearing standard athletic clothing. Didn't expect anyone else to be here. Alex turned. Couldn't sleep. She smiled. Same. I'm Carrie. Alexis. The name slipped out naturally. They talked between laps. Nothing classified. Nothing complicated. Just cafeteria food, hospital stories, old equipment, and the strange routines of life inside a military research facility. Alex was surprised by how easy the conversation felt. There was no scientist evaluating him. No technician recording his heartbeat. No military officer studying his capabilities. Carrie simply treated him like another person. Eventually, she challenged him to a race. Alex accepted. He deliberately held back, allowing Carrie to make it competitive. When they reached the wall, Carrie laughed. Okay. You win. Bailey. You're terrible at lying. They continued swimming for a while before heading to the cafeteria. Later, Carrie handed him her number. If you ever want company, call. Alex slipped it into his pocket. Back in his quarters, he realized something unexpected. He'd spent the entire evening thinking about something other than the experiment. And that felt good. At 7 the next morning, Alex was already awake. Breakfast tasted different now. Stronger. More vivid. By 8, he was back in the laboratory. Rains and her team were waiting. Ready? Alex smiled. Let's find out. The tests began. Running. Strength. Agility. Reflexes. Endurance. Every result exceeded expectations. His speed surpassed established human records. His lifting capacity forced the technicians to recalibrate their equipment. His reaction time was almost instantaneous. His vision and hearing extended beyond ordinary human ranges. The researchers stopped trying to compare him with normal soldiers. They were now comparing him against the limits of their equipment. At the end of the day, Rains approached him. You understand what this means? Alex looked at the data. I'm guessing you don't have a category for me. Not yet. He smiled. So I'm officially your first super soldier. Your first successful one, Rains corrected. Alex laughed. Fair enough. But beneath the humor was a difficult realization. He was still classified. Still isolated. Still unable to return to the life he'd left behind. The following weeks became a cycle of training and experimentation. Alex ran obstacle courses, practiced underwater maneuvers, sparred with elite personnel, and learned to control his extraordinary strength. The hardest part wasn't becoming stronger. It was learning restraint. A normal punch could seriously injure someone now. A careless movement could destroy equipment. He had to relearn how to move through the world. Outside the laboratory, however, something else was developing. Carrie became a regular presence. They met at the cafeteria. They swam together. They occasionally talked on the compound roof after dinner. Alex told her carefully edited stories about military life. Carrie talked about her work and her plans for the future. Neither called it a relationship. But the friendship was becoming important. For the first time since the procedure, Alex was building a life rather than simply surviving one. One evening, Carrie appeared at Alex's door. You're coming with me. Alex stared at her. Where? Outside. That sounds suspiciously illegal. Only slightly. She had arranged permission for them to leave the facility temporarily. Alex hesitated. Then he smiled. "Give me 5 minutes." They went to a small restaurant away from the compound. For Alex, the experience was strangely overwhelming. Cars, people, music, streetlights, normal life. It reminded him of everything he'd lost. Carrie noticed his expression. "You okay?" Alex nodded. "It's just been a while since I've been somewhere that wasn't surrounded by security cameras." Carrie smiled. "You're still you, you know." Those words stayed with him. Because that was exactly what he had been struggling to determine. They walked through the city afterward. They talked about ordinary things. Family, work, travel, dreams. Nothing about classified experiments. Nothing about genetic engineering. For a few hours, Alex wasn't a research subject or military asset. He was simply a person walking beside a friend. At the compound entrance, Carrie stopped. "You deserved tonight." Alex smiled. "I needed it." Back in his quarters, he realized something had changed. The facility no longer felt entirely like a prison. There was at least one person inside it who knew him as Alex. And that mattered. Freedom eventually revealed the problem Alex had been avoiding. Outside the laboratory, people saw only the body. They didn't know the person inside it. The comments, assumptions, and expectations gradually wore him down. He tried to compensate through training. It didn't work. During a routine evaluation, Rains noticed. "You're not yourself." Alex sighed. "I'm struggling." "With what?" He hesitated. Then finally said it. "I don't think I can live as a woman permanently." Rains didn't argue. She simply nodded. "Then we'll address it." Alex looked surprised. "You'd help me?" "You never chose this outcome. You deserve a say in what happens next." For the first time, Alex felt something close to relief. Alex eventually told Carrie, "I need you to understand something. This isn't because of you." Carrie listened carefully. "I know. I didn't choose this." "I know that too." Her response was simple. "You're trying to become the person you recognize again. I can respect that." Months later, authorization arrived for the first stage of Alex's transition back toward his original identity. The procedure went smoothly. His accelerated healing continued to surprise the medical team. Recovery that would normally take much longer happened remarkably quickly. But the most important change wasn't physical. For the first time since the experiment, Alex felt that his body was becoming his choice again. Testosterone therapy began gradually. Unlike the serum, the changes weren't sudden. They happened over months. His voice slowly deepened. His features became more masculine. His strength and muscle development changed further. But this time, Alex wasn't fighting the transformation. He had chosen it. Carrie remained beside him. She saw the small milestones. The first noticeable change in his voice. The return of familiar features. The increasing confidence. Eventually, their relationship became official. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. Alex simply felt comfortable again. 9 months later, Alex was cleared for active duty. Rains approached him after training with an envelope. "Good news." He opened it. His reinstatement had been approved. He could contact his former teammates again. He could return to active operations. He could finally reclaim part of the life he'd lost. There were conditions, of course. The details of Project Ascendant remained classified. His disappearance would be explained as an extended rehabilitation program. Alex folded the paperwork. "So I'm back." Rains smiled. "Welcome back, Commander." Alex packed his belongings into a duffel bag. His old name was back on his military identification. His old rank was back. His old career was waiting. Carrie helped carry his things outside. Rains watched from the doorway. "You did well." Alex smiled. "Couldn't have done it without you." She nodded. "Now go live your life." Later, Alex returned home. His friends arrived soon afterward. There were jokes, food, old stories, and the easy laughter he'd missed. They didn't know the truth. They didn't need to. One teammate looked at him and grinned. Whatever that rehab program did, it worked. Alex laughed. "Yeah. Something like that. For the first time in a year, he felt home. The cabin trip was supposed to be simple. Old friends. Good food. A lake. No classified missions. No laboratories. No scientists. Just Alex. When his friends noticed the physical changes left by his long recovery, there was an awkward silence. Jake finally broke it. So that's what the classified program was about. Alex nodded. Some unexpected complications. Mike shrugged. Well, you're here now. That was enough. Moments later, Alex ran toward the dock. Jake shouted after him. Bet you won't jump first. Alex grinned. Watch me. He dove into the lake. His friends followed. For once, there were no questions. No judgment. Just laughter. Alex's new commander was Colonel Ramirez. The officer reviewed his file before looking up. I know enough about your medical history to understand that you're unusual. Alex remained at attention. Ramirez continued. Doesn't change your position here. You're a commander, a soldier, and a member of this unit. The standards are the same. Yes, sir. Good. Training began immediately. Alex's performance stunned the team. His speed was extraordinary. His reflexes were nearly impossible to match. His endurance seemed limitless. By the end of the first session, someone had already nicknamed him Machine. Alex took it in stride. There was no need to explain every detail of his past. His teammates accepted him without demanding answers. Later, as the team left the training area, Alex caught his reflection in a mirror. The face staring back was familiar. Not identical to the man who had entered Project Ascendant. But close enough. He wasn't a laboratory specimen anymore. He wasn't a failed experiment. He wasn't a project. He was Alex Grant. A soldier. A survivor. And, finally, the person who had chosen what came next.